Hello and welcome to Premodern Mono Black Clerics versus Beast Oath. This is my list that I actually played. Unfortunately, I don't have it in word form, but I do have a different version in word form, a more standard build. I don't play Unearth, and I play a few other slightly different cards. If you can pause the video, you can see my build. We're playing against a Beast Oath deck. We don't have our opponent's list because the deck lists are closed in this monthly event, but this is a kind of standard stock list for that deck. And if you'd like to find out more about Premodern or any of the decks, please do check out my channel. It's all about Premodern. And going into game one, I am on the play and I just pass. I have quite a slow hand here. Opponent starts with a Treetop Village, which at this point we have no idea what they're on, but I would just assume at this point there's a high chance it's the Rock because that's the most common deck with this card. Actually, there are a lot of decks that play it, so I probably shouldn't have assumed that, especially as our opponent has now played a Yavimaya Coast, which that's actually one of the new ones. I'm not so familiar with that artwork, but that is a Yavimaya Coast. And I'm actually trying to do this whole video in one take, so apologies if there's any umming or ahhing or anything like that. I just want to get the videos out a little bit faster than before. And so here I have a Rotlang Reanimator. So this card is amazing in grindy matchups. And the reason that I play this is because I feel that this matchup could be quite grindy, just based off the lands that he has in play. At this point, I still have no idea what he's on, really. And here we have one of the newer blue-black fetch lands, Polluted Delta. Actually, not so new. I think there's probably newer ones than that, but yeah, I'm not so familiar with newer artwork. And after saying I wanted to do it in one take, I just had to cut a big part out here because the shuffling just took a while. So opponent shuffled and drew a card because of Gaia's Blessing. So land 4 for me, and I'm thinking about what to do here. I'm thinking about whether my port is worth using or whether I should just play the Rotlang again. And I believe in the end I do decide to yeah, well, we'll find out. I can't remember. And actually, I think I might have been sick when I played this game as well. So here, I think I named Aluren based off the lands. And yeah, opponent plays with hand face up here. True gentleman. Amazing. I love it when people do that. It just makes it so much easier. I always do that myself. So here we're discussing the card. So clerics are not super common, and especially maybe if people haven't seen them before, it's always good to explain what they do. Here we have, I believe it's an upkeep intuition. I tried to tap down the swamp, I believe, to stop the Pernicious Deed. And here we have another Gaia's Blessing. Seems like I only have one card in hand, so perhaps I did actually take some mulligans here. And I mean, we know I definitely have a Rotlang Reanimator. Maybe I do have more cards in hand. So yeah, play the Rotlang again and going for a Withered Wretch. So yeah, you can see I did have more cards there. And I decide to immediately sack everything to get the big guy. The reason that I'm doing this is because I think it's better to flashback Cabal Therapy now than to use the port and wait a turn. Because I have no idea what my opponent's playing at this point, I just assume there's a pretty good chance he could draw another swamp and then land the deed, and that would be super annoying. And especially while opponent's tapped out here, I can just get everything through counter magic. So yeah, I named the deed, and that just leaves our opponent with counter magic and nothing else, which it's obviously not good at all on this board of me having loads of stuff. So straight away attack for 10, and yeah, just pass the turn and port in upkeep, I believe. So I'm thinking about what to play. I think this might be a Duress. And, you know, it's definitely better to not cast it because casting it into open counterspell would have been kind of pointless. So in the sideboarding, I bring in all of my value-based cards and cards for against green. I do assume, based on what I've seen, maybe he might be an Oath-based control deck with Morphling. Turns out I'm wrong about the Morphling, but right about the Oath. So I try to bring in as many value cards as possible. And when taking cards out, apologies, I don't remember exactly what I take out. I think I take out some of the weaker creatures, as well as maybe a Cabal Archon, and I think I take out one Swamp. Maybe I take out some removal, I really can't remember, so apologies for that. Possibly took out Snuff Out, I think that's definitely possible. So I start with a turn 1 Curse Scroll. This is just great in any grindy matchup, as it just gives inevitability to my side of the game. You know, I can just shoot him for 2 all the time. So again, opponents starting off with another Gaia's Blessing. So at this point, opponents played a lot of Gaia's Blessing. And this is the reason why I assume he must be on some Oath-based strategy. It's not always the case. There are some control decks that do play Blessing. But if you see it, you always have to have the Oath in mind. And Withered Wretch is very good in general against Gaia's Blessing. But especially lately, there's a lot of Terravore Oath decks. And Withered Wretch is very, very good against Terravore. So Deed is extra good against my turn 1 Curse Scroll. I probably won't get any value from it. And opponent Engineered Plague here on Clerics. End of turn, I cycle a Scion. And Duress. So opponent has Counter Magic, Chain of Vapor, and Teferi's Response, which is a card that deals with stuff that targets lands. It's actually very, very good against Rishadan Port. And Crows and Tusker, and I believe that's the new version of Ravenous Baloth. Well, I keep saying new here. It's new to me, but actually the cards is probably like 10 years old or something. Again, I just didn't keep up with many of these modern artwork. And so just beating for 1 here because of Engineered Plague. Cabal Archon is great here because Cabal Archon gives me a way to just punch through loads of damage. Its ability is not affected by Engineered Plague. So yeah, this is my attempt to try and get him to blow the Deed for 3, because Deed will get rid of the Plague as well. And then that kind of resets the game back to neutral again. So yeah, I kind of assume here that the opponent is going to do that. Of course, they've got a lot of life and they're only taking 1 for each of these clerics. So yeah, I think it's probably more likely the opponent won't do anything, but you know, I have to try. And yeah, here comes Ravenous Baloth. So yeah, I can't remember what I have in hand here. I think maybe I actually do have Patriarch's Bidding. So I'm trying to draw lands, because if I can get more stuff into play and then sacrifice it to the Cabal Archon, then that'll be good. Or I guess we'll see what I have here, because I've activated Curse Scroll. So I assume at this point my hand must be really bad if I just haven't done anything and I've just activated Curse Scroll. Okay, so I've got the Priest. So I don't want to play anything into the Pernicious Deed, seems. And the Priest, of course, will die straight away to Engineered Plague. So here I'm trying to get my opponent to just blow the Deed for 3. It's going to be a difficult game. And I think I must have named that because I believe I had multiple of those at the time. And here we go, Rotlung. So this is the perfect card. This is what I exactly wanted, because the zombies are not affected by Engineered Plague. And I do still have more life than the opponent, especially, you know, with Cabal Archon, which is going to gain me some. Fact or Fiction is always such a difficult card to resolve. Here, I think, because I'm pretty sure that I have Patriarch's Bidding, and I have some less useful cards in my graveyard. I really can't remember if I have that or not, but I remember I didn't want the opponent to get the counterspell for some reason. But as we'll see, this was probably the wrong way to split the Factual Fiction, because 2 Impulse is just, I mean, much better than a counterspell. The opponent can very easily find a counterspell with 2 Impulse, and I believe we'll see in a second that he's going to cast the other one. So yeah, here we go. Yeah, I suppose I didn't have the Patriarch's Bidding. I can't remember what I had. I just remember that I didn't want him to take the counterspell. So Cabal Therapy here. So I think in this game, the Engineered Plague just set me back so much, because I think after the Plague came down, I just drew a lot of 1 toughness creatures. And I think if I can get him to blow the deed, then I can just start dumping all of these things into play. So opponent going to go for an end of turn impulse here. And very quickly takes 1. And plays a second Engineered Plague, just slams it down. That absolutely devastates my board. I do get some zombies, so that's nice, but then opponent immediately pops the deed for 1, I believe, killing the scroll. And at that point, I just decide to concede, I think. No, apparently not. So yeah, I draw my card for turn, and I think for a little bit. It's almost impossible for the Cleric deck to beat 2 Engineered Plagues, so I just decide to concede and save the time. Game 3, I kept sideboarding the same, however it was. I think maybe I might have put some more removal back in. I think maybe there's a chance I did take out the Snuff Outs. And this game I've sped up to ×3 speed because it's a really long game. This is the first game where the opponent actually gets the Oath. And this is the first point where I have to think, because I have, I think, 2 Cabal Therapies in my hand, so it's possible for me to get rid of all my creatures and just drag the game out. But based on what I've seen in game 2, I think probably I can just race these beasts. So it just really does depend on whether the opponent sided in something like Phantom Nishoba or something like that. I decided to start off with Cabal Therapy, and then a second Rotlung and sack the Therapy. So here we've just got, a lot of power. Take out his Sweeper, take out his Pernicious Deed. So yeah, just a random 6/5. It's nowhere near as scary as something like Phantom Nishoba. So I really feel quite confident here, because my hand can actually race some of these beasts. And because I have cards like Dystopia, I feel very, very confident that if I can draw a Dystopia, then that's just going to absolutely take over the game. It's going to keep him, sacking a creature every turn. So he'll sack one for Oath and then tutor one up for Oath, which is just really, really good. Or if he doesn't have a creature, he's going to have to sack the Oath. So Dystopia is my best draw here. I decided to just swing in because, the longer the game goes on, the more crazy stuff is coming off this Oath. He's not going to have the same number of creatures as me for a very long time. So I just, attack him with everything and sack one to the Archon. Play another Cabal Therapy, take the Fact or Fiction. I'm really not that worried about counter magic here, but I do see opponent has both a Deed and an Engineered Plague. Those cards are both incredibly hard for this deck to beat, especially as we saw 2 Plagues just completely wipe the deck out. It can still win if it's very far ahead and it has Rotlung in play, but if you have nothing, it's so difficult to beat 2 Plagues. I decide in the end that I have to take Plague. Opponent doesn't have black mana, so he can't cast either, but the counter spell is just not that scary for this deck at all, especially with cards like Patriarch's Bidding or Oversold Cemetery. And this deck actually, I don't believe his build plays too many black sources. I'm really not sure, but it seems as though it doesn't. And I believe the land he played, it looks quite dark, it looks like a swamp, but I do believe it is an island. Here I'm just attacking him for 2 because I want to sacrifice, well, not sacrifice, but I want to get rid of one of my creatures. He doesn't block, so I end up sacrificing my Cabal Archon to drain him. And, this stops him from using the Oath. He plays a manland. I have the Port, though. Again, I attack him for 1. If he blocks and my thing dies, I will get to use the Oath, which he doesn't want, especially because my deck benefits from Oath as well. I have cards like Cabal Therapy that can work from graveyard. And eventually he decides to block it. So now I will get an Oath trigger in my turn. So opponent taking a card here. I'm going to tap down the Treetop Village, I believe. Yep, definitely the scariest card. And Ravenous Baloth, it's really quite good here. I decide to block. I'm not sure if that's the right play or not. I feel like I'm drawing to Dystopia or some other stuff, or this. We actually comment at the time. I think I even say, I need the Scion here. It's just going to help so much. And then it just happens to be the one on top. So Oath really, really helped me here. I cast Duress, taking the Deed. Again, I'm just not worried about counter magic. Most of my threats are not that strong individually, but in combination, they have such strong synergies that they just end up being more powerful. But just having one countered, especially in a matchup like this, where opponent is on such low life and has so many pain lands, he only has, I believe, 1 island, or two islands. And this is the point where I think opponent actually had the game, but really this was quite a mistake here, attacking with the 2 big creatures instead of leaving one of them back, because now my Scion can actually attack him. He has to sack a creature because his life total is so low, and that means that I get to return it with the Scion. So now I get to start generating value against the Oath. And perhaps I made a mistake here playing the Scion. Not the Scion, I've forgotten the name, sorry. Again, doing this in one take, so not going to edit this part out, but the guy that sacrifices to get the Scion. Maybe I shouldn't have played that, but because he has Ravenous Baloth, he can just sack his stuff every turn and recur it with Oath and Guy's Blessing. So I just decided I may as well play this stuff down. He's going to be oathing every turn either way, so I may as well just try and, just go as quickly as possible to kill him. So We're both at relatively low life totals. Opponent attacks in with a bunch of stuff. I think about how to block for a while. I think I block the two big creatures. The treetop has trample, so I have to block one of the big creatures or I'm going to die. Opponent chains the Scion. And I think this may have been a mistake here because I can actually chain the... I can keep the chain going, so I don't think opponent was expecting me to bounce one of my own creatures. So I sack a land here, and I bounce my own creature back to my hand to stop it from dying in combat. And then I have the choice to keep bouncing, which I think perhaps in hindsight, maybe I should have done that. Maybe I should have bounced one of those beasts back. Or opponent sacks them. Oh, I think maybe I have the zombie. So for some reason my zombie survived. I think the opponent wants to keep the oath chain going and get on a higher life total. So yeah, that's why he doesn't want me to oath in my turn and oath into something good. But luckily I've just been saving absolute gas in my hand. And yeah, that's why bouncing my... I've forgotten the name of that card. That's crazy. I've played it so many times. But it's really, really useful because, I'm going to be able to get the Scion right back if I want to. And green card here, of course, representing, I believe it's a 6/5 that I got from opponent. Yeah, in upkeep, tap the village. Now, opponent being on such a low life total, this counterspell, you can see the reason I didn't take it is because it's just been stuck in his hand doing nothing the whole game. There he had Teferi's Response to get rid of my port, which is actually quite annoying because this treetop village, and he actually has 2 treetops, they can really pressure my life total, especially when I'm only at 3. Because the life totals are so close here, I'm really thinking about the maths and how to not die here. If I attack with the 6/5, opponent has to chump it. And yeah, that's what opponent does, chumps it and gains 4. The reason for doing that, attacking with a creature, it means he can't attack with that 4/4. And because I have untapped thing, I can get the Scion. There we go, you see he actually countered a smaller threat, which allowed me to play the Archon. And the Archon is just putting me so far ahead here, because if I untap, I have 8 points worth of drain, just without anything else. So it's just so difficult for opponent to attack through this stuff now, because not only can I sack 3 clerics to get the Scion back and a bunch of zombies, I also have the ability to sacrifice stuff to gain life. So opponent plays a plague. I have some 1 toughness clerics, so I sack them. Opponent then plays deed and yeah. So here I believe attacking with Scion obviously gets something really good back from his graveyard. Or he has to, if I attack with, yeah, he has to block and sacrifice his Ravenous Baloth because of the life total. So I attack with everything. He sacks the deed, kills all the tokens. Then he can block the non-trampling one and then take 6-7 damage, which puts him to 4. I get the Ravenous Baloth back, which means now my life total can just instantly jump by 10 because I have 2 beasts and the Cabal Archon. And this just really, you can see how that one attack earlier, where he allowed me to attack in with my Scion and just get 1 creature back, it just completely changed the course of the game. And so 2-1 to Clerics here.